So excited for our guest today. I've been pals with him for a while, and I think he's one of the greatest offensive minds in this league right now. He was with the Denver Broncos as the head coach last year. He is with the New York Jets as the offensive coordinator this year. He has finally taken a little break. It has been, I would say, pedal to the metal since he took the job with the Jets as the OC, and now they are on break. Let's welcome in Nathaniel Hackett to the season with Peter Schrager. Nathaniel Hackett, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I think our first interaction goes back to when you were with the Bills or the Jaguars, and you and I were talking about like Will Ferrell movies at like a production meeting. And I'm like, I think I like this guy. I don't know this guy, but I think we have something in common. And then here we are about 10 years later, and you and I are talking, and you're the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets, which is basically the team in my backyard. I guess I would ask, how's it been with the Jets since you signed back on to be the offensive coordinator? And it's nuts to be with Aaron, and here we go again.
I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's as you are in this profession this long, it's amazing how things end up working out. And to be with the New York Jets, to be back with Aaron, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, a guy that I love so much, an organization that means so much to me and my family. I mean, my dad, who coached a long time, he was the offensive coordinator at the New York Jets. So I think that's something that means a lot to me to be able to go to a place that he's been. So I love it. I mean, let's go. New Jersey, New York, all of it.
I'm going to come back to the Jets in a second. I want to do a parallel here. Tell me if I'm wrong. All right. So your father was a legendary coach, Paul Hackett,
Yes.
Still is a legendary mind, went from college ranks, then was in the NFL, and he was, the OC for the Kansas City Chiefs when Joe Montana was there. But before that, he was with Montana with the Niners when they won the Super Bowl in '84. And then he's reunited with Montana when Montana's traded to the Chiefs, and he was the OC there in Montana, which is rave about your pops, and was this great relationship between Hackett and Montana. You and Rodgers kind of have this similar path right now, where you guys had this great success when you were his offensive coordinator in Green Bay. You break up for a year, and then now you're reunited again, and it's like Hackett and Rodgers. Have you and your dad ever spoken about that, and how there's something about the communicating with the great ones that maybe not everyone has a secret that you guys might?
I mean, we definitely talk about it a lot. My dad and Joe were obviously very close. I think that was one of the reasons why Joe went to Kansas City during that time. I think that anytime you get, any quarterback that is comfortable with the guy that's in his ear on game day, that is going through the game plan process, that knows that you got his back and you're trying to do everything you can to put him in the best position possible, that's always appealing to any guy. And it is unique, like kind of the whole thing. I remember I had gotten a text when the Aaron trade had gone through that a lot of people were drawing those parallels. And, I was just kind of laughing. And it is crazy. Again, it's crazy how this game works. I mean, it's why we all love the NFL so much, why we love this game so much is when you get crazy things like this happening. I mean, who would have thought that I would have been at the New York Jets, let alone Aaron? In this just a short period of time. I mean, anything can happen. That's why it's a great game.
You talk about your influence that your father has on you, obviously. What was it like growing up as a coach's son? Obviously, you're traveling, you're going to new places, you're making new friends. But for you to decide to go into this profession as well, you must have truly not idolized, but maybe you looked at it as, hey, that's a step and that's a path, and I want to embody what my father did as well.
Yeah, growing up as a kid in this game is crazy. And I'm glad that I'm there for my kids as you go through this process, because there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And again, that's why this game is so great, because of those ups and downs. But growing up in this, one of the coolest things about myself was being able to grow up in a locker room. My dad, right out the gate. I remember when we were at University of Pitt, and Curtis Martin, Alex Van Pelt, all these guys, Ricardo McDonald. So many great players. My dad threw me in the locker room, and made me work in the equipment room.
Is that
Made
right?
me wash. Oh yeah, made me wash clothes, pick up clothes, fold towels. I mean, he wanted me. So just being around the guys, and then going to Kansas City. I mean, I was there the whole time, and I mean, I've got some friend Darren Kearns who took me under his wing, Alan Wright, who's the head equipment guy now
Still
at
is.
the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, he's there. Mike Davidson, who still works there.
You're naming equipment guys from the Chiefs. Those are the guys that had an impact on you. I love this, though.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, when you're in the locker room with those guys, I mean, I remember when Marcus Allen, because it was Joe Montana, Marcus Allen, Kim Leonard, Derek Thomas, those guys. I mean, I'm picking up their laundry and washing clothes and getting to know them, seeing them interaction, and just being able to be part of that was so amazing. And I think that's something that my dad did great for me is let me be part of the team. Because I mean, in the end, that's why we love this game so much. And that's why people get so addicted to it in this profession, because being a part of team, I mean, there's nothing like it. And, you know, it was a very small part for me because I wasn't even there full time. It was primarily the summers, but just that little interaction, you know, you could see how beautiful this whole thing is, and just see how the guys all are together all the time. And so that was kind of the best thing growing up as a kid. Now, I never thought I was going to be a coach.
Did you not? I mean, because I was going to say, you start thinking, okay, I can do anything. And you might resent the fact that you lived in California, Kansas City, New Jersey. Like, you were bouncing around.
There was a lot of moving. I mean, it's we always say you either get a better job or you lose your job in a small amount of time in this profession. And I mean, it was one of those things that just kind of happened. I mean, I didn't go to college in the mindset of doing that. I think that it kind of came down to a couple things as I got out of college, and ended up getting very lucky and working hard, and a couple people took a shot on me, and here I am now.
Yeah, and I think what the universal thing on you is that you're a great communicator, and that you speak to these young men as equals, but you also teach and impart, and you have a different vision on things. That came from your days in Buffalo coaching EJ Manuel and Kyle Orton and Jeff Toole, but then primarily to me, those Jacksonville years with Blake Bortles, just a couple of years, but you guys got to the AFC Championship game and were a couple plays short of beating the Patriots and playing in a Super Bowl with a really young team. And the universal thing was Marone's the coach. It's great. Hackett really connecting with these players on offense, a really young offense. You want to take us through just that ride? I mean, the win in Pittsburgh is still one of the greatest upsets, and yet you guys went toe-to-toe with them, put up 40-plus points in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest games I had ever been a part of, especially when you look at the game before. We played the Buffalo Bills, and really it wasn't a great offensive output by either team. I think we won like 10-7 or something like that. And then to be able to go to, you know, a place like Pittsburgh that I have so much respect for growing up there as a kid, and just the Steelers in general are such an amazing franchise. And you know, I think we ended up winning that game 45-42. So I think just seeing the two different game plans and the two different executions was awesome. And yeah, you know, that team was very young, and it was very stacked on defense, and the offense were a lot of young guys, a lot of guys that hadn't. I mean, Keelan Cole was a rookie free agent, and Dede Westbrook was a rookie, and Alan Hearns was our old wily vet, because we had lost Allen Robinson on, I think it was the third play of the season, week one, and those guys. Leonard Fournette was a rookie, and Chris Ivory was there. I mean, it was a great Mercedes Lewis, who is one of my all-time, one of the greatest tight ends to ever play this game. But I think the cool thing about it was those guys bonded together, and everybody understood their role. And, you know, you look at Blake and what he did, he transformed himself that year. And we were just a really efficient offense. And it was great because as the year started, it wasn't great. We were running the ball really well, and the defense played great, and then Blake really started picking up steam halfway through the season. I think he had like 300 plus yards throwing, like 5 games in a row or something like that, and we ended up finishing in the top 10 in the offense. A lot of people forget that, and I just love being part of that, because there weren't a ton of superstars at the time, and but the guys played together. And when you talk about the communication, I think, hey, you know, we're teachers. As a coach, you know, we're teachers. We're just like a kid going to high school. You have to find ways to inspire. You have to find ways to get them to be excited to learn all the different plays, whether it's a football play or biochemistry, whatever it is that you're doing. And I really give so much credit to that whole group that year in 2017. I mean, all those guys, they really bought in on the things that we wanted to do and the philosophy that we had in running the football and play pass down the field. And it was a thing. It was really a thing of beauty. We had a chance there. I mean, Blake had a great playoff run those 3 games, and especially that Pittsburgh game. And but it was a fun run there.
You know, I mentioned guys, and I almost say it, and people at home are like, "What, EJ Manuel and Kyle Orton?" Like, but you had to kind of work with what you had in both Buffalo, and nothing against Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. And then things implode in Jacksonville. You eventually get the job in Green Bay, and then you walk in to work with maybe the most naturally, physically gifted thrower of the football in the history of the sport. What is your reaction, the delta between what you've seen as a football coach to then getting to know Aaron Rodgers and seeing the things he does day to day?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned all those QBs, and I've been lucky to work with a lot of different guys, and every quarterback in this league is so uniquely different. I mean, every guy kind of ticks a little bit different. They all have different ways that they learn, different ways that they comprehend things, and having an opportunity to go to Green Bay, another amazing franchise, to be able to go in there and work with a guy like Aaron. I think the thing that appealed to me was his foundation of kind of what I had learned in my early days with my father was something that we were able to communicate really well. The true West Coast old school offense, because Aaron was originally trained by Mike McCarthy, who Mike McCarthy had been with my father for 9 years. I mean,
is that right?
I had known Mike since I was 9 years old. I mean, he worked through the ranks at the Pitt Panthers, and then went to the Kansas City Chiefs. He was there with Joe Montana and all those guys. So I think that to have an opportunity to work with Aaron, and even more with Matt LaFleur. I mean, Matt and I had known each other a long time. Obviously it's an incredible offense that they have created over time. And to be able to learn that offense, to be able to work with a guy like Aaron, who was trained from day one, like the Joe Montanas had in the early days, it was just a really cool experience to be there and kind of correlate those two offenses and be with a guy. Again, when we talk about Aaron, I mean, Aaron's uniqueness is how he sees the game. I mean, yes, he can throw the forward pass very, very efficiently. I mean, he can put that ball anywhere he wants. I mean, heck, he practically invented his own gun footwork, as we like to call it. And, watching him throw the ball is incredible. I mean, in practice, you're wowed all the time. But I think the thing for me was how he sees the game. I mean, how he's out there and operating and I mean, truly he's out there having fun with the guys, playing ball and listening to so many different things and messing with the opposing defense and the opposing defensive coordinators and how he sees coverages, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I don't think I know everybody knows that he's really smart and, he's a really good thrower of the football. But I mean, just his knowledge and understanding of defenses and the game is unbelievable. I think that's what always sets those guys so far apart. When you look at some of the greats, I mean, just talking with some of them throughout my time, I mean, their true understanding of the game of football and how it fits. And I mean, it's like another coach out there. I mean, that's all we study. And I think those guys do that also.
LaFleur told a great story to me when I did my podcast with Sean McVay. We did Flying Coach. LaFleur told a story of his first year with Aaron. There's about 4 seconds on the play clock, and LaFleur's looking at the play clock, and it's his first year.
This one.
And he calls a timeout, and Rodgers comes and just tears into him and says, "Don't you ever, I had a da-da-da-da-da-da-da," and LaFleur's like, I didn't know it. He goes, "Don't you ever do that, because I'm doing it on purpose. I'm going to bring it down to the shot clock with 1 second, because I know there's a man coming in motion, and I know we have it, but I don't want to give it away." And I'm like, it's the stuff like that. Like, when was the first time you, as the OC working with him, saw something in Rodgers where he did something and you were just, holy, I've never seen anything like that before?
There was a time in practice. We had run a play that had, my dad always taught me these plays. He would say, okay, all these plays have the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, and we put little numbers on all these pass drawings. And then they've got these other ones that have just like an alert on it. And my dad would always tell me, hey, that's a Joe Montana read. Once you're that experienced, once you know defenses well enough, okay, you can think about that one. And I remember we're in practice and we have a play that has, very basic 1, 2, 3. And Aaron drops back, looks right. And this is just in practice, looks right, comes back over and throws the alert on the backside for an amazing touchdown. I forget who he threw it to. But it was actually Luke Getzey and I were in the room and we're like looking at each other and we're like, what was he doing? And Aaron just kind of gives you one of those like little smirks.
Yeah.
And so Getzey and I go back and we look and like, I want to say it was like a week earlier when we had run that play versus our defense, he noticed that they had pushed everybody over. And so there was a one-on-one matchup on the backside to a corner route. And he had remembered that just from practice, like how he was watching practice. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he remembered from that practice clip so far earlier that he could go all the way back there and he got the exact same coverage, heard all the same things, and then attacked that guy. So it's like everybody's live. I mean, I was like, wow, I've never gone to that guy in that play. And well, hey, I guess you've seen it, but just for him to be able to remember that had happened was pretty impressive. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. You mentioned your father several times already. You said something in one of your Jets interviews, whether it was be on the press conference or it was during a podcast with their gentleman, Eric Allen, who does it over there for them. Your father never called a play out of the shotgun in 20 years of coaching. Never. And now we look at these offenses and they're so interchangeable and there's so much different stuff. How would you define your Are you West Coast? Are you wide zone? Like what would you describe the Nathaniel Hackett offense now as we enter 2023 with Rodgers at your mercy with whatever you want to do with them?
Yeah. My dad and I, we fight a lot about that. It's why aren't you under center more? Why aren't you under center? How do you see the defense? You gotta have your eyes up all the time. And but I think that in today's game, everybody has to make adjustments. And I think a big part of the reason why we all go to the gun is because of all the intricate defenses we see. I mean, there are guys in the old days, they all didn't stand in all the gaps across the board and then drop out and run and, be able to athletically still cover people from standing almost like a defensive lineman. And so I would say, the West Coast offense is something people throw around quite a bit. And for me, we are very much West Coast. And the West Coast is defined for me how you train the quarterback, how you teach the quarterback and train the quarterback. But I think there's still a huge component of what I was able to learn from Matt LaFleur. He is somebody that I just respect so much. And he's a dear friend of mine, and I love the things he does. So the wide zone is kind of the starting point in the run game with the play pass and the keepers based off of that. But when you look at the quick game, the drop back, that world, that's more of a West Coast world, kind of like what Aaron grew up. So it's a mesh between those two, with the wide zone, the play passes off of it, and the pure quick game and drop back West Coast world.
Now, Matt was a head coach and an offensive mind. You were the offensive coordinator. Now you enter this deal with Saleh where I'm assuming he's like, here are the keys. Like, you go, do your offensive, like whatever you want to do. Does Aaron have the green light to audible out of whatever he wants? Can Aaron is Aaron out there basically with you co-calling these plays? Like, what's the dynamic now that there's no head coach who's going to say, actually, no, let's run this?
There's aspects of every play. And I think that for us, you always want to be in a good play. I mean, there's so many unique defenses that you face. And that's another argument that I have with my father all the time. He's like, you should just call this play and run it. I'm like, well, Dad, people play, their coverage is a lot different than the olden days. And so I think for me, I think as long as we understand the intention of the play and what we're trying to accomplish within it. And I think that's what's so great about having Aaron is, hey, you're calling this play for this reason. This is what you're you want to throw this ball way down the field. But if you don't get that advantageous look from the defense, well, we don't want to waste that play. So I think whether it's built into the play call, whether it's built into an audible package, however we always want to be sure that we're being efficient and always have the ability to stretch the ball down the field. So I think there's going to be some freedom with Aaron. And Aaron, as we moved forward in the Green Bay system, there was definitely more freedom as we went. Mm-hmm. And we're going to just continue that because I think you got to take advantage of a guy like Aaron that is so smart and understands it. So trying to build this thing for him and build it so that when he sees certain things, he can do all kinds of stuff and put us in the best position possible.
Why do you and him get along so well? Not that he doesn't get along with everyone, but he's a different kind of cat, and yet you and him, like, gosh, it's like you guys love each other. I mean, I could see it in the press conferences from you, but also you hang and you go back to all the stuff, the Gold Zone, all the stuff in Green Bay. You connected with him in a way that I don't think we've seen him connect with many coaches before. I'm not asking for the secret sauce, but what was it that you guys kind of clicked on, and how come the two of you are so tight, both on off the field?
I mean, it was just something that happened naturally. I think that we have a lot of things in common. There's a lot of things we love to do across the board, off the field. I mean, we love movies, a lot of the same kind of movies. We're both close in age. So I think that a lot of the things that we talk about, where there is a lot of correlation. I mean, heck, I coached at Stanford against him when he was playing at Cal.
Is that right? That's good.
Yeah, we were both young guys. And so I think that, there's just a lot of things that we have in common. And,
random movie that you and Rodgers would mesh on that, like, it's not an obvious one. It's not Step Brothers. It's not, Boogie Nights.
Gosh.
Like, give me a random deep cut movie.
Boogie Nights. Where did Boogie Nights come from? That was a good one. That was a very unique movie back then. I mean, gosh, we got so many just from how we quote them and how we talk about them. And that's part of all the things. Starsky and Hutch. You got to love Starsky and Hutch.
The Ben Stiller one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, Will Ferrell. I mean, anything that Will Ferrell's in, we love. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic. But we actually had a big movie the other day. Todd Downing is on our staff, a dear friend of mine, somebody I was with when I was at Buffalo, and we had a little barbecue, and we had this long conversation with my good friend that works with us also at the New York Jets, John Vieira, and we were going through this whole process of movies, and here we are. It's John, Todd, me, and Aaron talking about these movies, and we've got Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle.
Completely over their head,
we're all
right?
sitting. I mean, they're like, "What movies are those?"
What were you guys talking? I love that. You understand? We could talk about the West Coast mesh and all that. This is the stuff that. What movies were? What wormhole were we going down?
Oh, you should have seen the list that we built for their summer. You know how there used to be a summer reading program?
Yeah, summer movie. Of course, the movie list.
We created a summer movie list.
Let's go through it, man.
So it started off as like a one-pager, and then there were a couple movies that were put on there that I was a little bit upset about.
Yeah, didn't deserve to be on the list.
No, and so we ended up setting up by genres. I mean, mafia movies too. I mean, there were so many things that they hadn't seen that we were like,
you're playing in
get
New
on
Jersey.
The same page.
That is a sector of movie you need to have. You need to know Goodfellas. You need to know Donnie Brasco. You need to know.
Just the Godfathers. Let's go Godfathers and Scarface and you look at some of these the movies that like blew my mind. I mean, it was funny because my son was there too, and my son saw it. So
how old's your son?
My son's 15. I mean, he had never seen Terminator. I mean, they looked at me. They looked at me, and they're like, Arnold Schwarzenegger. What has he been in? Because they look at him and he's the governor of California. And you forget these guys are so young. They're like, oh my gosh, we need a major education. I mean, Shawshank Redemption. There were so many different things that we were like, okay, we got to make sure we get all these things down. And the guys had seen a couple of them. And, but I mean, there had to have been, we kind of went a little overboard, but we figured it could last longer than the summer.
This could be a lifelong, this is a Bible. This is great.
Oh, yeah. We went through them all from Bruce Willis, Die Hards to, and then, it was a great list. I'm going to have to send it to you. The list was extensive.
Like to share that, and we will share it with our listeners. And I'm laughing because I'm picturing, all right, you got these coaches, and you've got like Zach Wilson, who's 22, Chris Streveler, who's been all over the world playing football. You've got this great room, and then there's Rodgers kind of calm in the corner, like just probably throwing out titles. Like, what about this one? What about this one?
If you could see our quarterback meetings, I mean, when Aaron and I start talking, and because again, the fun thing about our room right now is you've got guys that want to learn, that are striving to become better, and the cool thing about having Aaron in there is he was there for a lot of the origination, the first protections, the first why these concepts were named what they were named. So the conversation, and I know kind of the history of all that stuff. So when we start talking about where these things come, it's great because you get an in-depth knowledge of the system and what you're trying to accomplish. But there's always that history, whether it's movies and then you jump to football and then great football player, just all those things. It's great to have that background, that history, because I think that's what makes people closer to an offense. If they think that a play is called, apples, it's, well, why is it apples?
Yeah.
Where did that stem from?
Let me tell you the story. It actually, yeah,
here
that's
it
good.
comes, And so I think those are the fun conversations to have, because it starts meaning more to you. So when you do go out on the field, you can see where it just comes alive, and you believe in it more because of where that thing came from.
Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight, was on our Good Morning Football morning show, and he told a story about he was in a running backs room, and it was him, and it was Carter, and it was Brees, and the lights were down, and there's going through some concept, and I don't know who the running backs coach is these days. I apologize. Probably a best friend of yours, something like that. And
Taylor Embry.
There you go. So he's going through it, and he's doing everything, and it's dark. And all of a sudden, a voice from the back of the room just says, actually, consider this, and and it was Rodgers, sitting in the back of the running backs room, just watching and listening, and maybe I'm wrong on the story, but that's the gist of it. How much of an advantage is to have another voice who speaks your language and can almost be a coach that is now engaged and fully in on it? I feel like you guys have this, we could talk about the offensive line play, whether they're going to keep him up all we want, but the fact that he's with these young guys teaching them offense as if he's a coach and they listen to him like they do, that's got to be a huge advantage.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, coaches, either Joe Dumars said something that I thought was really cool from the old Detroit Pistons. He said, coaching-led teams are very good teams, but the great teams are player-led teams. And so I think that's such a powerful thing when you have a player being able to communicate those things and have those conversations. And I think that's something that Aaron has been really enjoying, just all the communication he's had, whether he's sitting in the room and we're a whole offense together, and we're talking about certain plays or certain things, and when he chimes in, I mean, that goes so far, not just because it's Aaron Rodgers, but because it's another player. It's a guy that's, in there running it, instead of just always hearing it from a coach and a coach talking to you. It's about the players interacting and learning, because in the end, they're the ones that are out on the field. They're the ones that have to be able to operate. You can call any play you want, and if it's executed perfectly every single time, there's going to be some form of efficiency. The players are going to know how to react. And I think that when Aaron gives you all those answers and we're all speaking the same language, I think it's a very powerful thing. And that's what has really been fun during this off season. And I'm excited after we get a nice break. I'm excited for it to continue throughout training camp.
Do you feel like he's not reinvigorated, but invigorated to be with new guys and so much youth on this team?
I mean, he's been great. I mean, when I was at Green Bay those 3 years, I remember the first year we had a great time. Then we hit COVID, and that third year, once he got it, I mean, the great thing about Aaron is when he's in the room, when he's in the facility, I mean, he's all in. I mean, he's grinding, he's talking, he's communicating. I think that being here at the New York Jets, it is completely different for him, something he's never experienced before. And I think that kind of excites him. Just a totally new area, totally new experience. I think that, and it's a challenge for any quarterback to come into a brand new place because there is so much stimuli around you. And I think he's done a great job being able to kind of hyper focus and just set on those players when he has those opportunities, and talk with a guy like Garrett Wilson, be around a guy like Alan Lazard, who's already been around, and watching those two guys interact with the group, with Randall Cobb, all these guys. I mean, it's just fun to see the interaction. I think he enjoys that. He enjoys the team. That's why Aaron's still playing. He plays because of the locker room, because of the guys that are in there. I mean, that's why he loves the game. That's why any guy wants to play as long as he can for the team.
Yourself, I mean, these last 12 months have been such a whirlwind. I can only imagine what you've been through, not just your family and where we're going, but also mental health wise and your own ambition and your own self-worth and all this stuff when it's tied to the coaching profession. What have you learned over the last 12 months after the Denver experience, then now landing back on your feet with the Jets? But just what would you say almost in the rear view? I know it's probably you're still going through it every day of just what the hell just happened. But I would ask you, what is your big takeaway? Because you talk about the highs and lows of coaching. I would assume that's viewed as a low, but in the long term, it's going to be a high for what you got out of it.
In the end, you got to win. I mean, that's what it's all about. Whether you're a coach, whether you're a player, you got to win. And we didn't win enough. And so I look back, and I think there's so many things that I learned over my time. I think it was a great experience on all the different things. I mean, you never know what it's going to be like until you're in that chair. And it was an honor to be in that chair, even though it was a limited time. And you could just continually take all the things that you went through, and the things that you can potentially do better, the things that you might not have done well enough. And as a coach, we question everything every second. We always want to try to make ourselves better. And I think there's a lot of things that I learned that are going to make me better. And I think everything happens for a reason. I look at it and say, wow, to be able to have an opportunity to be at the New York Jets, to be back with Aaron, I think that's unbelievable. And so I think just everything happens for a reason. And this happened for this reason, and here we are. And I'm so excited for this season, and my family's excited to get to New Jersey and get going there.
I said the word invigorated for Aaron, but you sound invigorated. You sound like you've got this like pep in your step. Is there a chip on your shoulder, or does that not exist when you're a coach? Because then you start coaching beyond what you want to do, and then you start trying to do extra. But do you feel like you want to maybe show some folks a thing or two who might have said, "Hey, this is what I can do also"?
I mean, in the end, a coach, we're teachers. There's so many things that we can't control. Everybody looks at a coach and says, oh, this or that or this. And that's part of the profession. That's what we all signed up for. But in the end, my job is to put the guys in the best position possible, and they have to go out there and execute. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, I can't catch it. I can't throw it. I can't tackle or block or anything like that. I wish I could, but it wouldn't be pretty. So I think for me, you have to continually learn and hold back those things that, in the end, you just can't control. And I think that when you kind of let that go and understand that there are going to be some things that are going to happen that you never expected, there are going to be some things that, you can call perfect play in a perfect situation, but, as coaches, we're not the ones executing it. And so I think it's not about me. It isn't. It's about me. The only thing I would say that it is about me is I just want to be the best version of myself. I remember Matt used to always say that. That's the whole mindset, is walking in that building, trying to do whatever you can to be the best version of yourself. Because if I can then portray that to those players, then they're going to be able to get out on that field, and they're going to be able to execute at a high level. And that's all that I want. I just want to see Aaron play some of the best football he's ever played in his career. I think that was something that was so fun to be a part of when we were at Green Bay, and I want to see him, get to the, where he wants to be. I want him to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. I want to watch Garrett Wilson be great. Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb. I mean, Bam, like you mentioned, Michael Brees, all those guys, our tight end group, all those guys. I just want them to have fun out there and play football together. And I want to watch them interact and all that. That's the environment that I like to create, because I can control that environment. I can make sure that they're going out there and they're working together, kind of like you look back at that Jacksonville days. Yeah. I mean, that 2017, I think that was some of the thing that I was the most proud of, is watching those guys go out there and just play ball together. I mean, and I know they're not a lot of household names, but the one thing I know is that those guys played together. And if you get that, you're going to have an opportunity to be successful. And that's all I want to see happen, because it's not about me. There's only so many things a coach can control, regardless of what anybody wants to admit.
You're in New Jersey now, and we went to the Knicks game, and it was like, here's New York City in its grandeur and its glory, what it could be, right? Like celebrities everywhere, the fans so hardcore, the Garden rocking, and you just get a taste of it. Like, if the Jets win, how damn cool this can be. Have you had any really cool interactions with fans or anything, just even being in Jersey? I know you're probably living at the facility, but like a little taste of it, of just what this can be if the Jets have success.
I mean, I would say going to that Knicks game was pretty awesome. I mean, New York City is, it's arguably the greatest city in the world. I mean, we're talking, it's a place that my wife and I have gone to visit for years. We love it. I mean, we're lucky to be. I mean, I had all my kids in New York, Syracuse and Buffalo. And so, I mean, we love New York. And I'll tell you, New Jersey is unbelievably beautiful. I had no clue New Jersey.
No, you probably just think of the opening to Sopranos off the highway. Then you're like, wait a second, there's actually green and there's some lovely, it's awesome.
Hey, there's a reason why they call it the Garden State, and I mean, I just think, I mean, it's been such a great experience there. I haven't had a lot of interaction with people. I've been, like you said, keeping my head down, just going to and from the house, and then just trying to grind and work. But I mean, being in that Knick game, just being able to hop on the train and be able to go into the city is so great. I mean, going to Broadway and going to amazing restaurants is something that I'm just lucky to be part of. And but it's going to be fun. I mean, every place you go, I mean, you always hear people say that, you know, if you win, you know, oh my God, it's going to be amazing and this and that. There's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. You're going to go through adversity no matter what. And so I think as a coach, you just got to kind of focus in on what your role is and get those guys in good positions. And, you know, I'm excited to get the Jets going.
All right, we're going to do really quick rapid fire because I know you got to get out of here and you're doing us a favor on your off week doing this podcast. Really rapid fire. These are fun questions, a little introspective, and then we'll get out of here. First one, I assume your father is your coaching mentor and a guy you look towards, but outside of your father, who is another person that you call for advice or someone that if you're in a bind coaching-wise, you like to bounce some thoughts off of?
I would say there's two. Alex Van Pelt, who's the offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. Known him my whole life. He was one of the guys that was at University of Pitt. And then and Matt LaFleur. Like Matt LaFleur is another guy that I talked to a bunch. And then Todd Downing would have been one, but he's on the staff, so that doesn't really count. But no, definitely Alex. Alex is somebody that means the world to me.
Kyle Orton, you guys brought him out of retirement off the chair in his house, and he went and won a bunch of games for the Buffalo Bills for you guys. Take us through that time, and were you one of the guys trying to convince Orton to come out of retirement? I love that time in Buffalo Bills football, pre-Josh Allen.
I'll tell you, that was a great experience. I mean, Kyle's an awesome guy, and he definitely came right off the couch. And I mean, just having him out there and watching him spin the rock. I mean, he's got a cannon, and it was pretty fun during that whole time. I remember we scored a touchdown to Lee Smith. Actually, I think it was versus the Jets. I think it was during that one, and that was like the first goal line pass he had ever scored a touchdown on. And just being part of that, he had his longest run. He scrambled for like 10 yards, and he was all fired up for that. I remember when he ended up starting to play. He was like, "Hey, listen, man, we got to get over 500," because he wanted his record to be over 500. Yeah. I was like, "I'm gonna do everything to help you, man." I mean, but that was such a great experience because, you know, being with an older guy, because you know, I'd just been working with EJ and Jeff, and they were rookies, and Thad Lewis, and those guys worked so hard and were great. But playing at a young age in this game is very, very difficult. I don't think people understand how rigorous it is for these quarterbacks, and to be able to get Kyle in there, who knew so much. I mean, I remember the first game. We're playing the Detroit Lions at the Lions, because that year was a weird year. We ended up playing in Detroit twice. We had a blizzard, and the game got canceled, moved to Monday, and we actually played the Jets again in Detroit. But that first game versus the Lions, I remember Kyle, because I had never called plays for him. He'd only been there for about 4 weeks, and he throws a pick six. And I want to say it was like the second or third series, and I remember he comes off on the sideline. He's like, "Oh, got that one out of the way. Okay, we can go to work
joking
now."
about it.
And I'm like, "All right, man, great." You know, because as a coach, you don't know how. You know, should I get mad? Should I? And he ended up winning in a 2-minute drive through a big play to Sammy Watkins on the left side, and we ended up kicking a field goal to win the game. I mean, it was really cool. It was a great experience working with Kyle. He was awesome. I can't say enough good things about him.
I love that. Your favorite Aaron Rodgers in-game pass? You probably could chart every pass he threw as a Packer, but you go back and the one that still gives you goosebumps.
Oh gosh, there's been a lot of really cool throws.
So you know what we'll do? We'll put the play over you talking as you're talking and describing it, because I love this crap.
Oh gosh, you know, I would say the very first game we had played. So you always hear those stories about Aaron seeing people sub or jumping the ball. And I remember it's our first game. We're playing Thursday night. It was the opening game versus the Chicago Bears. And we're getting down in the red zone. And, you know, here we are as coaches. We've got all our plans and the things that we want to get done. And I'll be damned. We're about to try to call a play, and he jumps the ball and snaps it, and we're like, what's going on? And he runs around, and I see the flag thrown. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then he launches it up, and Jimmy Graham goes up and catches the first touchdown of that 2019 season. And it was an incredible. It was a great throw, but I think for me that was the first time I saw him being able to attack the defense from that standpoint and be able to jump the ball and score a touchdown. That was the only touchdown we scored that whole game.
Yeah, I remember Smash Amos had a couple picks in that game, right?
Yeah, he did, and that's what ended up sealing it for us. And I just remember looking like, gosh, why don't we just do that every time? Just have him, jump the ball, and run around and score a touchdown. I was like, that's great, but that was a really
because it was the cerebral. It was the cerebral part of it where it's like, wait, I got
what
them.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are trying to get our best play in the red zone, aka gold zone for us, and and he ends up jumping the ball and scoring a touchdown anyways. And we're like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. I didn't know we were going to get this, and so I think that was a really cool one. But probably the craziest throw I ever saw him make, and I still haven't decided whether or not he was throwing it out of bounds or whether he was just throwing it up, was that same year, Kansas City Chiefs. It was funny because
in the end zone, that one?
Yeah, in the back of the end zone of Jamal Williams.
Get out of here.
I mean, and it's funny because there was history to that one, is that Matt and I were arguing when we were game planning on what personnel grouping to use. And Matt wanted to use a crazy one, and so we put all these guys out there, and he's like, this is going to work. And I mean, literally, he snaps the ball, and everybody's coming after him, and he's running around, screaming, and launches it up. And I mean, it's a perfectly thrown ball to Jamal in the back pylon to the right in Arrowhead. And Matt's like, I told you it would. He's like, I told you it would work. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He ran
Rodgers
around,
just bailed you out.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man. So those are the kind of the conversations that we always have during the games and stuff. But that was a pretty unbelievable throw. And he had another one that same game when he threw it to Jake Kumaro across the field. I mean, he scrambles to the right and just dimes it to him. Jake lays out and gets it. I mean, there's so many. I mean, that's the fun thing about Aaron. I mean, it might not be a perfect play, but he's going to find a way to make it work.
My last one, you're going to be in New York quite a bit, I guess. You're going to have the opportunity to get to New York. The one person, or I would say celebrity, non-football person, it could be anyone. It could be government, it could be anything. The one person you would love to get dinner with in New York City is who?
I mean, if it's a Jet fan, the one person that all my kids, and for me, that they were going crazy about, and I heard Adam Sandler.
Oh, we gotta get the Sandman with you. We have to make this happen.
He's a Jet fan. I mean, I would have said Paul Rudd because I know you and Paul are close, and Ant-Man's my favorite guy.
He's a Chiefs fan, bro. He's a Jets fan. Yeah,
he's a Chiefs fan. We went to rival high schools, so it's like. But I mean, Adam Sandler. I mean, come on, man. I mean, Adam Sandler for me growing up. I mean, when he was really starting. I mean, just his stand-up. The GOAT that he was.
Albums, yes.
I mean, the albums. I mean, people don't even know about
Toll
that.
Booth Willie. They don't even know about Toll Booth Willie, dude.
Oh, gosh. The car song. And, I mean, he's. I'm trying not to swear because I know he.
Piece of, the car song.
Yeah, that piece of car song. And when he's talking about the GOAT, and he's like, so man, you button hooked me.
Yeah,
mean, and then, I mean, just all of his movies, I mean, that was during COVID. We had an Adam Sandler,
The Family? That was what you guys did? You would go deep on Sandler? And did the kids appreciate the early Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, or are they more the new Netflix stuff?
No, they love them all. I mean, the one he did with Jennifer Aniston, they love them all. That they understand that. But it's funny going back to, I mean, just showing them Happy Gilmore for the first time, Billy Madison for the first time, and my kids are like, "What's up with the penguin? I don't get the penguin.
I don't either. You're like, I don't get it either."
That's the point, I mean, and but I mean, going through that, I mean, Adam Sandler, I think is one of the most legendary
all right.
comedians
this is
ever.
My goal.
So I love him.
Forget my own career accolades. Forget what I want to see happen for this podcast or Good Morning Football. My goal is to get the Sandman with Nathaniel Hackett for dinner one day in New York. We'll make this happen, my friend. It's a doable thing. There's got to be a way, and he is a Jets fan.
I've heard that him and Method Man are two guys that I know are Jets fans that I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Okay, so you want Staten Island and Method Man, and I believe Sandler's from New Hampshire, but his dad was a Jets fan. That's the story. Yeah, dad was a Jets fan. Bro, I can't thank you enough. This was on your vacation week. I started off the podcast explaining how most people are away, and you took some time to do this podcast with me, and I've been wanting to do it for a while. Nathaniel Hackett, thank you, man. You're a great dude, and I cannot wait to see what you do with this Jets
Appreciate
offense
it.
and Aaron Rodgers this year.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And man, I love you. You know that. And hey, let's get it rolling.
Let's go.